All right, Dak Prescott will only count as a $22 million hit this year to the cap. That will obviously go up, but that's a pretty good deal. The Eagles will take a massive $33 million cap hit, and Carson Wentz will not play for the Philadelphia Eagles. By the way, there's a new TV deal coming too, as our next guest knows, and it's going to be massive. So we'll see how all this shakes out. We want to welcome in our friend, NFL Insider, Mike Detillier, WWL Radio TV New Orleans. Mike joins us on the Miller Lite guest line. And, Mike, good morning. Your reaction to Dak and the Cowboys finally getting this deal done?
Well, it's about time. I mean, I'm tired of talking about it. And, basically Dak got what he wanted. He got this shorter deal of 4 years instead of the 5, which Jerry was pushing for. It was really never about the money. I think that they were always fairly close financially. It was the term of the deal. But there was no doubt that Jerry was sort of playing a little bit of monopoly money and waiting around to see, because, Jerry's the most influential owner in the NFL right now. And arguably, you could say in pro sports for what he's done behind the scenes. And I think he has glimpsed of what the NFL is going to get TV-wise and said, okay, I'll trade you the shorter deal in millions, and I'll get billions back in return. And so, okay, let's cut this deal. I think Jerry didn't want to talk about it anymore. He didn't want to have to deal with it anymore and said, you know what, let's do it. Let's get it over with and finish it. I just think, you have that type of money, you got that type of ego, and it raised with you for a while. Because every time, you do anything with the Cowboys until you're going to sign Dak, that was going to be brought up in a conversation. And I think you finally gave in. It reminds me a little bit of 2012 with the Saints when, everything was happening behind the scenes, the Bounty Gate stuff, the suspension of Sean Payton and some assistant coaches and Mickey Loomis. And Drew Brees was not signed at that point. It goes deep into the summer. I'm at the Manning camp, and I get word, hey, the Saints have come to terms with Drew Brees. I think for the Saints management, I think they would have held on for a little bit longer. I think this was Mr. Benson at that time saying, I got enough of it. Everywhere I go, everybody's asking me what we're going to do about Drew Brees. Get it done. And I don't have to hear it anymore. You got to understand when you in that sort of category money-wise, you just want to talk about positive stuff. You don't want to be talking about something that's hanging over your head. And I think this finally got with Jerry, and I think he said enough's enough. I've got enough of it. I don't want to hear it anymore. And, okay, I'll give you your millions and wait till I collect the salary from the TV. And it won't be millions. It'll be with a B. So, it is what it is. I think it's the precursor to telling everyone that, hey, what's remarkable with the NFL is how they're Teflon. Just Teflon. A summer of discontent, of strife across America that hit into the sports world. And people, I'm never going to watch the NFL again. Never. I got a neighbor. He's boycotted 4 times. The boycotts haven't lasted long, but 4 times. I'm not watching it anymore, Mike. I'm telling you, okay. And then he can come back and tell me the next day, play for play, what happened. It's okay. If you don't watch it, okay, I get it. And it's your right. You don't have to watch it if you don't want to. That's what America's about. But my thing is, they got a lot of people that are. And I think this new contract is telling you that no matter what, the NFL is almost, Teflon for anything and everything at this stage. It's remarkable. How when I was born, and I was born in the '60s, the NFL was in the third position. Major League Baseball was king. They had the stars. They were kings in the early '60s. College football was two. And then it was the NFL. And how the TV age really changed the NFL, and they have become the biggest sort of animal in the cage that, they continue to grow, and the cage is not big enough for them.
Mike Detillier on the Out of Bounds Show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. He joins us on the Miller Lite guest line. Mike, let's go to Seattle. I can't believe this is happening. I think Pete Carroll's lost his mind. I think we may have talked about this last week. Paul Allen passes away. I think Carroll has more power, absolutely corrupts. And I just don't think you move off of a Russell Wilson. And this thing looks – it's almost like it gets worse and worse every week when I have you on, Mike.
No, it's about power and control. And we've seen this before. Okay, it happened last year in New England. The most successful head coach quarterback duel that's ever been in sports now came apart. And it was about power and control. And that's what this is about in Seattle. It's about a head coach who had great success at the college level. No questioning that. Great success at the NFL level. Went to 2 Super Bowls, won 1, should have won 2. But now you got a quarterback that's questioning you. And he's saying, hey, listen, coach, we got some issues here we have to address, or we're not going back to the Super Bowl. And Pete doesn't like it, doesn't like to hear it. And I think basically saying, okay, I'll run the team, and I get what you're saying, but I'm the boss. And basically nobody's telling Pete what to do. Pete's got I think it's 19 assistant coaches. 2 of them are his sons.
I saw that.
And so here's my deal. At that particular point in time, who's telling him anything? All this stuff about John Snyder's telling him stuff. Come on. That's the biggest bunch of malarkey. John Snyder's not telling Pete anything. He's going along with Pete on everything. And Paul Allen, he was not, from people that have worked with him that will tell you he ran his company differently than he ran his NFL team. He was a football fan, but he was not a fanatic about it. And, he hired people to run the team for him. And, his sister doesn't really care for football, to be honest with you. So now you've got an older coach with a young quarterback in his 30s that's saying, hey, listen, let me tell you what's wrong with the team. I can tell you if we don't get better here and here, and Pete doesn't want to hear that. And where do you get better when you've given up 2 first-round picks and a third-round pick for a safety in Jamal Adams? Listen, I think the world of Jamal, but that was a high price to pay.
It's too much. Goodness gracious.
For Jamal, because he's not a cover guy. Jamal's really like a hybrid linebacker, strong safety today. Much better, closer to the line of scrimmage as a rush guy, player gets to run. But that, isn't that what Pete sort of wants defensively anyway? He wants that type of player. But his offensive line has not been good. Ever since Marshawn Lynch retired the first time, the running game has not been there. And, then they sent out a letter about renewal tickets, and Russell Wilson's name's not even on the paper. I mean, that's as petty can get. That would have been like the Saints for years, not putting Drew Brees on it.
Exactly.
And so I do think it goes to show you appreciate what Sean and Drew had together here. Two guys with a strong personalities by any stretch of imagination, and yet they were able to get along so well. And yet you see Brady and Belichick at the end, they couldn't. And now you're seeing the exact same thing with Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll. This is a divorce. Now they're just trying to figure out how to divvy up the assets at this point in time.
Unbelievable. This is one of the top 3 QBs in the world. Mahomes, Russ, and Aaron, just depending on the Sunday or whatever. But
here's the deal at one time, Bo. You're seeing that happen, and Deshaun Watson in a similar situation with the Texans. The same sort of situation. Deshaun's not playing back again in Houston. And so you're sort of caught here. And you got a new coach that says, man, listen, I know I'm going to win a lot more games with Deshaun than I'll do if I don't have him. But, he's not going to play. And I can't see Russ walking back in that building. So you kind of caught here if you're Pete Carroll. In essence, you devalued your own player. And what you're doing, you devalued your own football player here. But that has been, I guess, part of what you like about Pete and what you don't like about Pete. How maybe toward the end of careers he has been with some players. And some of them have left there and they ain't been happy campers, and I think you are seeing the divorce between the two guys here, and it's right now just a matter of separating the assets of who's going to go where, what I'm going to get in return, and if it doesn't happen now, it will happen, within a year from now. I mean, this divorce is going to happen. There is no mending the fence. Because
Mike, I got a question.
I think once you break it, you can't fix it.
I love where you're going here with Sean, and that is amazing. What Sean and Drew were able to do for so long. Yep. With the this, Mike, you've been covering the NFL for years. The pressure and the ego in the building is really hard for, I think, the fans to comprehend, even though they're all into it and covering and watching the game. But I want to ask you this. Now, knowing what we know in the way the game is played and the way the game is called, and the freaky skill people that we have coming out every year, what's more important now? Keeping a Pete Carroll coach or keeping a Russell Wilson quarterback? Because I could argue for the quarterback.
I'm going to argue for the quarterback. Their coaching does matter, but there are just a handful of coaches that can make a difference, and I can tell you there's just a handful of quarterbacks that make a difference. Give me the player.
Yeah.
Give me the player.
Hey.
Again, that coach, he makes tough decisions, makes the play calls, that sort of thing, but that guy makes the plays on the field. Give me the player. And I think you're seeing it more and more. And we're starting to see more players have bigger control of teams. We've seen it with LeBron. We've seen it with Brady now. And so we're watching it more and more. You can't tell me the Chiefs aren't making a move now without at least bringing Patrick Mahomes in to talk to him about it.
Sure.
Years ago, ain't happened here. Ask Archie how many moves the Saints brought him in to talk to him about.
0.
And he was a big star in the 70s.
Right.
Archie will tell you the story, and why I'm saying this. It was his birthday a couple of days ago. Archie went and said, hey, listen, man, that guy at USC is a really good player. We need a receiver. So, we need to draft Lynn Swann. But somebody in the Saints organization pushed to pick a linebacker. In that particular year, the Saints picked Rick Middleton, who ended up being a journeyman linebacker in round 1. They picked him over Lynn Swann.
And they picked Russell Erxleben in like 79
but here's the
or
best
something.
Part. Archie said what it did was set up the next year because they wanted to keep Archie happy. So they picked Larry Burton from Purdue, who was a former track star. He could run, but he couldn't catch a cold if he was naked in Russia in the wintertime. I mean, I mean, Larry had some issues catching the ball, and so one bad decision led to another bad decision, and but they didn't consult Archie on that. I think about Plunkett when he went to New England, and he was the guy, and after a couple of years, they cut him. They sent him to San Francisco. And San Francisco played a bundle to get him, and then cut him. I'm talking about outright cut him, and he goes to the Raiders. And then all of a sudden, he's sitting for a little while, and then Pastor Randy breaks his leg, and he leads them to 2 Super Bowls, 2 winning ones.
Mm.
And so it does go to show you that even guys with stroke, potentially, that they didn't have it back then. I think about Wilt Chamberlain, a great player he was. Wilt's didn't tell the Philadelphia team, hey, listen, this is who I want. He didn't tell the Lakers, this is who I want. Jerry West was the same way as a player. And so today it's different. It's just a different world. And I'll never forget, this was years ago. And, QBC was big. And still is, but it was really big back then. And they had Joe DiMaggio on, signing autographs. And I can't remember who was interviewing Joe. And they asked him, Joe, in today's world, what would you be looking for financially? You see all these contracts and all. And, and Joe was smooth as silk, And Joe was, they wouldn't call me a player anymore. They'd call me partner. I own part of the team. That's the difference. And, everybody got a big laugh about it. But guess who didn't laugh? DiMaggio. Because you know what? He knew that if he was playing, he probably would have been a partner. He would have been a part owner of the Yankees at that point. But in today's world, he would. A guy like Joe, today, you consulting him on everything. They didn't go to DiMaggio or Mickey Mantle or anybody else about moves they made with the Yankees. None of that. It's just totally different world of how sports is done today, and there is more power with players today than ever before. Now, the platform is there too, social media. That, okay, you don't want to listen to me? Okay, I'll take it to the streets, so to speak. I'll put it out on social media. Right. So you decide how you want to handle it if you're a front office. That's what makes Sean and Drew just remarkable. You've been through this since 2006 all the way up until now. He hasn't officially retired, but he will. And how that relationship was never strained.
Did we lose Mike?
No, I'm here.
Okay, Mike Detillier, WWL Radio, TV New Orleans on the Miller Lite guest line. Mike, I've only got a couple of minutes here. Are you still going that they'll bridge the gap, so to speak, with Jameis Winston, or are you hearing any other buzz?
I would lean that way. I would never rule anything out with Sean. Never.
Right.
But I think the lean is to go with Jameis at this point.
Okay, why are they
because I don't know what Seattle is asking back for Russ. Because the devil is in the details of what do you have to give up to get him. What do you have to give up to get him? And maybe the cost is too much. But I would never rule anything out with you because I've been around him long enough to know he wants somebody. He'll flip that pancake 5 times before it's finished. I mean, that's the way he is. But I think at this point he is leaning toward Jameis, and I think it's a mistake. So Jameis will win games for you, but he ain't winning nothing for you in January.
No, he's not. So they're shifting around. They're cutting all this, money. They're trying to get the number down every week. Okay. I would. How about this, real quick? I've only got a minute or so. Would Miss Benson give Sean and Mickey the go-ahead if they can keep cutting to a certain point, right, they're still going to take a hit if they could do this deal. Would she be willing to pay the tax or whatever it is, knowing that a new TV, like you referenced earlier, a new TV deal is coming, and two, it gives them a better opportunity to win and go to the playoffs?
I think Mrs. Benson will do whatever Sean wants.
Okay. All right.
I think she will do whatever Sean wants. And so if it means doing what he got to do to get Russell Wilson, she's all in.
That's awesome. Boy, that could be off the chains. You put Sean's maybe the best in the game. And see, we don't have enough time, but here's where I am too, Mike. Sean is more valuable than Pete Carroll. And Pete's a really good football coach. But Sean's more valuable because he's on offense and he knows how to play call, scheme, and coach the QB position, in my opinion. Your thoughts in 30 seconds or so.
And he's changed as a coach, too.
True.
He's adjusted to the times. Pete hasn't. Bottom line, Pete's still stuck where he was 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. Sean went through that metamorphosis. He's a different coach today. He's having fun with the players, and Pete has fun, but almost on his own. Look what Sean's having fun with the players. Pete's having fun, but he's almost by himself doing it.
Great point. We'll leave it there. NFL insider Mike Detillier, at Mike Detillier on Twitter, WWL Radio TV New Orleans. Mike joined us on the Miller Lite guest line. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it, bud.
Thank you, buddy.
He's great. Dak, New Orleans, a little bit of Russell Wilson. How about that? Miss Benson is willing to pay that, which I would be too. I can say that, but if you're the owner of a multi-billion-dollar franchise and you know what's coming in every year, and you know that your people, your fans want to win, and they want, as Mike said, it's all about playing in January, right?
Yep.
It's all about playing in January. So Miss Benson would give the go-ahead if Sean and Mickey could put together something, anything that even gets Carroll and the Seahawks, going.
Interested, yeah. Well, what's easier to get to December and January in the NFL with? Putting random pieces around a quarterback or putting, a random quarterback in among pieces?
Right.
It's the other way around,
right.
So it's a little scary to hear that Miss Benson will do anything Sean wants, but hopefully that turns out for good, not for bad. For New Orleans.
I love what Mike said about they're getting a divorce. They're just trying to figure out how to divvy up the assets.
Yeah, who's taking the house and who's taking the boat.
Right. Interesting. Pete Carroll is going to do this? Russell Wilson? With DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett and this new running back that Blake kept talking about that was overachieving, so to speak? I don't understand. We're live in the Bank Plus studio. Hey, the show is brought to you by Welcome Home Beef. They will ship steaks to your door. Fillets, New York strips, ribeyes, porterhouses, you name it. WelcomeHomeBeef.com. They also have a retail location in Starkville, Mississippi on Main Street. WelcomeHomeBeef.com. Fantastic premium steaks. Welcome Home.